some of those scenes?
No, famously, I've never warmed up either emotionally or physically. In fact, I was still running and jumping and shooting for my character. First thing they gave me to do was to
just hold it like that in your hand.
And on the second take, I ruptured my calf muscle and went through using crutches, so that was the end of the exploits as a routine shooting.
Sounds painful. Anybody else need specific fitness regimes that you need to follow to keep your shape for the role?
Yes. I think the challenge ahead of you being around about when you're a female playing a female character who's supposed to be sexy but also probably intelligent at the same time, they want you to run in high heels. So that's a challenge. That was a challenge I could never keep up with everyone. But
Sounds stimulating. But as well as the physical challenges, emotionally it must be very, very draining on you. You know, the scenes, you really do touch on some sensitive subjects, and obviously with your character, I mean, that was obviously very traumatic. But tell us about that, how you prepare for it, and how you switch off at the end of the day.
I think people do obviously have very different ways of dealing with things, but for me, the more serious the scene, it seems to be that the sillier you are actually, or I am, kind of, in between. Just because it sort of lightens us a bit. So actually some of the really, the rape stuff that happens at the end of Series 6, Rupert and I would probably be really inappropriate in between and sort of messing around just because, I don't know, so I quite like to just do it when we're doing it and then afterwards just leave it behind you.
So you don't find it hard to switch in and out of that role?
No, but I mean people have different ways of working, but no, I quite like to just kind of have, there's normally something just triggers it, but it's normally just one of the same action.
Now let's just go round and tell us your favourite part about playing your character. Favourite bit of that character for you?
Favourite aspect of Malcolm? I think my favourite take on Malcolm is the fact that he's so buttoned up and repressed. I didn't really have to build and think with myself as an actor to summon up all sorts of emotions. I left that to other members of the cast. Just sit there in front of my computer and look rather grim. It didn't take an awful lot out of me, though. Oh yes, it did. It did. I had to be terribly upset when my best mate Colin was hanged and asked him about some terrorists and whatever it was. Yes. I don't really joke about that.
Do you share any characteristics with them?
I don't live with my mother, I live with my wife. I don't know the first thing about technology, so it's all been a gigantic swizz. I am good at crosswords, I'm good at that sort of thing, but I don't even possess a computer, so they're the cat's out of the bag. So, actually, we had a genius who used to do all the design all the computer programs called Mark Doman. And knowing how terrified I was of computers, every time I looked as though I had to do anything at all complicated, I would sit there in front of the camera, in front of the computer, and Mark's fingers come up underneath the wall, press all the buttons, press all the switches, and he'd say, "Hugh, don't worry about this, this won't hurt, I'll do it all for you." And I just had to sit there and look as though I had the faintest idea if I knew what I was doing, which I didn't.
And Miranda, for you?
I should have thought about that while he was talking. I don't know, I think Jo went through so many changes, hair-wise and emotionally. And I think for me, my favourite stuff, or favourite part of her really, was the kind of resilience, without ever having to be brash. It was a nice, she was a nice balance between not being too much of a superhero. She was quite vulnerable compared to some of the other characters, and I quite enjoyed playing sort of mix of vulnerability and strength, I think. It was, yeah.
Do you have a strong character in real life, or was that your way of expressing that somewhere?
I sort of can be quite strong, but no, I think I'm a bit of a drip about lots of things. I'm quite kind of oversensitive and I mind a lot about certain things, and I think Jo probably is tougher than me. But then sometimes you can play a character and they can be a good influence on you, I think, if that doesn't sound too pretentious, and then you can sort of take good things from them. So, thank you.
My character she was actually based on, or is based on, somebody that actually exists, and I found the woman in question to be absolutely fascinating. She was plucked out of university by age 6 when she was 18. And the career that this woman has had was amazing, and I quite like the fact that Beth was quite rebellious and she'd been working in the private sector for a very long time, and so I like the fact that I was kind of a bit of a black sheep at MI5, and my favourite part of the job was working with Lisa, actually, whose favourite pastime was trying to make all of the other actors corpse when they're supposed to be being dead.
Don't lie.
It was a nightmare. I got in trouble so many times by the directors because of it.
Yeah, but it's essential to keep moving right, to give you your earlier questions, harrowing storylines and grim events. So if you're doing that 12 hours a day, it's good to keep a light running through in between shots.
Otherwise you're going home. Okay, great. And Alice, for you, what was the favourite part?
I liked the Peter trying to make the very final scene of episode 10 for my character was a fairly harrowing scene. Peter came very, very close to making fall apart. But I guess what I liked about Elena was the really slow burn of the character. I don't think people really knew who she was and what she was doing until close to the end. I didn't either, actually. I didn't know until the end of episode 4 what they had in mind for her. I don't know if they were just keeping me in the dark deliberately. And they knew all along. Do you know?
No, I don't know. The general principle is to keep everyone in the dark, but largely out of necessity. The storylines were very, very current, and in order not to pre-end stories, we would wait till the last possible minute to prepare scripts and try and present stories that were in the news, dramatise the backstory, which is part of Spooks' success, I think, that ability we had to dramatise real stories. It's much more interesting than the story you get in the press if you can present what actually happened with real characters on screen. So that's the reason scripts were made.
Well, I mean, it did give, and I was terrified until the end of the episode because I really didn't know whether I was making the right choices or not.
It's a terrifying process.
Yeah.
You're not to blame.
I mean, you know, in terms of a sensitive subject, that the July 7th bombing, the fact that you filmed that before it actually happened, I mean, that just shows how closely they're working with, you know, sort of public affairs what's going on. But how difficult a decision was it for the producers and directors to air that episode, you know, that storyline based on what had just happened?
Yeah, we had a storyline which was almost identical to the July 7th bombings, which contained 3 tube bombings and 1 bus bombing. And that was written in January, February, and we shot it March, April, and then it happened in July. So we had a story that seemed to be making hay out of people's misery, and that's certainly not what we wanted to do. So there was a debate about whether we could air that program. Finally, the decision was that we could if we restructured it. So we reshot about what stuff, took a lot of the gruesome imagery out, and made it much more palatable, much less near to the actual story than it had been originally. So it was there. But even then, it did arouse some comment, and we were sensitive to that.
Well, dealt with very sensibly. Now, we asked the audience when they came in to submit some questions. So I've got some of your questions here, and we'll send the microphone out as well. So the first question the audience wants to ask you is, do you have a particularly memorable or favourite Spooks filming location? So, do you have a favourite location on which you filmed?
And no one has
We've
arms.
got a few things, for some reason I was always wanting to know when I read something awful was going on. But yeah, it's just lovely to have that view of London, and the fact that you're the only, you know, there's still people crossing it, which is very annoying for them, but it's a nice feeling to be so much a part of London in a way.
Yeah, we filmed a lot on the top of skyscrapers too, so you're often not making it evident that we're on the top of skyscrapers in the city, but it gives you a fantastic depth of field and a fantastic backdrop to what otherwise might be a quite ordinary scene. So I've been on the roof of most buildings in the city, like most of the tallest buildings. Unfortunately, we've stopped filming before they completed the shower, because that would be next on our list, I think. But certainly roofs of buildings that otherwise are closed to the public is one of my favourite locations.
My God, one day in Covent Garden, and it was the moment the new iPhone was being released, and there's that Mac shop in Covent Garden. And the piazza was wall to wall with people, not for us, but for the iPhone. I mean, no one knew that we were going to be shooting there, but it was quite astonishing because it was a gorilla unit, there was a cameraman, and we had body mics on, and that was basically it. And we were just weaving through the crowd, and the camera was either behind us or in front of us or on the side. And it was actually quite exciting to be in the midst of one people. And obviously they knew they were on camera, but they were also focused on getting an iPhone. But no one minded. We were just there in the midst of real life, happy. And that's never happened to me before. Usually the set is cordoned off, and there are extras come on and off. And this was just incredibly raw and just happening in a moment. They did that a lot in Spooks, didn't they?
Yeah, it's a very economical way to shoot crowd scenes. Is to hide the cameras on roofs and put your actors amongst the general public. It's quite a treacherous route because you can be spotted and recognised, and that can throw everything into chaos. But generally, you can operate within a crowd and they won't know you're there. And as Alice says, if you're mic'd with a body mic, then the conversation can be recorded, dialogue can be recorded, and you can pull it off. And we did a lot of that because famously, Spooks has a low budget, so they can't afford to fill Oxford Street with hundreds of extras.
There was a scene in Series 10 in Trafalgar Square, and I wasn't part of it, but I heard about it afterwards, where someone is trying to kill someone and a sniper shoots him, and they shot them. Well, you knew because you were calling the shots, weren't you?
Well, actually,
and no one knew.
That seemed to me that was a little bit given up with that we did have a suicide bomber in Trafalgar Square, fully rigged up with a vest and threatening to pull the pin, surrounded by the unwitting public. And it seemed to me that was perhaps jeopardising people's, not their safety so much, but certainly their dignity. But we pulled that off, and it actually looked fantastic, and it worked very well. So once again, down to economies.
No one really knew. What was, I mean,
That's true. Not even the police on that occasion. Well, they wouldn't have allowed that to happen, you know, so that's why it's called guerrilla filmmaking, on the roof.
The thing with bombs is that when they do explosions, the pyrotechnics guys famously say, I mean, they always say, oh, it's not going to be that big, it's not going to be that big a bang, and it's always a massive kind of, ear-destroying. And then when with Rupert, when they blew up Adam in Finsbury Square, there was, it was a huge explosion, and that mushroom cloud, it was real. And of course, 2% of the people that see the mushroom cloud know what's going on. So it is quite,
Scary stuff. I want to ask yourself, what was it like for you stepping into the shoes, essentially, of Joe Portman, the Series 8 that you did? Or 9? Series 9? I mean, 9. Yeah. How did you feel stepping into those shoes as the new sort of recruit, so to speak?
Before I did Spooks, I'd never seen a single episode, so I didn't have a clue whose shoes I was stepping into. But so in terms of, there wasn't a fear surrounding that, but obviously just from a personal perspective, going into a working environment where people have been, working together for 10 years, like, there was an element of the new girl at school feeling, but that was quickly shattered because everyone's so welcoming and it's such a lovely crew and lovely cast. So.
And what's a typical day like on set on Spooks?
Just constantly trying not to laugh and to be serious and do proper acting. But yeah, no, we giggle a lot. Yeah, it's lots of fun, and that's kind of bizarre because the show itself, as you know, is deadly, deadly serious.
Richard, that's surprising to us, both for us that aren't involved. Peter, yourself, you're the longest standing member of Spooks. How many years? 9 years have you been
10.
involved? 10 years. It's amazing. Do you find, and yes, obviously you've been part for a long time as well, do you feel you get typecast in that kind of role? Is it then difficult to break into other parts afterwards?
Very difficult.
The volume taking.
Very difficult. Casting, people who make those decisions are famously lacking in imagination, which is peculiar, because you think in that job you would need a modicum of imagination. But in fact what they do is they see you in something and think, oh, he does that, so we'll get him in because we know he can do that. So you have to kind of break free of that mould, but it's a small price to pay, I think, for the longevity of the show, which I'm perfectly willing to play that role for the rest of the time. But
would you say it's been your most sort of famous role, what you're most recognised for?
Well, the episodic television is very, very powerful. You know, you're on every week, and you become very instantly recognisable. Whereas if you're doing films or one-offs, then it's much easier to bubble along under the radar.
You are nominated for an Oscar.
Which you are nominated for an Oscar.
Yes,
I think that deserves a round of applause, actually, doesn't it? Again, your character had very specific traits. Can you break out of that? Is there anything else you'd like to do?
It's interesting about typecasting, which of course is something we complain about. On the other hand, we do depend on it for a living, because it's an imperfect world. But since Spooks, no one has asked for my services as something which knows what he's doing with computers.
They must have seen those hands coming up and doing.
They must have seen the hands. I think I've been wrong as far as that goes. As far as Malcolm's personal backstory is concerned, it varied from week to week depending on who was writing the episode and what they felt like doing with me. So sometimes I was extremely camp, as written, and sometimes I was rather boring and heterosexual. So the whole experience has left me thoroughly confused.
Well, what would you like to do? What sort of character would you like to play now?
What? Seriously, something I think I'd like to play I don't know, a psychopathic serial killer or...
A bit more exciting.
Think, I don't know, look at me and think of whatever it is you think I would be least suitable to do. Ask me in that role, and I think most actors who go on would say that to you. Let me do something completely different. That won't happen.
Interesting. Got another question from the audience here, which I'll put to all of you. Who is your favourite character aside from your own character? So if you want to lead off again.
I hate to say it because it's in the room with me, but it must be Harry.
One vote for Harry.
I always enjoyed, and a lot of the things with you obviously, but I always enjoyed watching Ruth, watching Lisa. She's such a beautiful actress, and she just has so much talent. And it's very funny as well.
Peter as well, yeah.
Neck and neck.
Yeah, and for me it's got to be Ruth.
Yes.
That leads on to another question, which is to you, Peter. What would you like to have been the final outcome of to that final scene in series 10? I mean, how would you like it to have ended?
Well, wedding bells would have been nice. We don't do happy endings in Spooks, so the obvious Spooks ending to that storyline had to be that she had to go. She went in no uncertain terms, quite operatically, I think. We had a couple of choices, but that was the one that stood out.
I was going to say, did you film different endings and then left it to them to decide?
To a degree, yes. We actually prepared different endings, but then decided which one we'd film.
And it must have been very emotional, because it not only was the end, you know, it was that relationship and the way that ended, but, you know, as your character as well, you know, it was all coming to an end, the series was coming to an end. Was it difficult to film those final scenes personally as well as...
Yeah, it was one of those occasions when life crosses over into art, because it was the end of an era, it was the end of their life, dramatically speaking, and it was actually on the last day of filming too, so it was a good feeling, but it was emotional.
I can imagine. And for all of your characters in Spooks, there's quite, you know, the possibility you're going to be killed in any episode. Do you get your scripts and you're sort of frantically searching to see if you're still going to be there the next time? How far in advance do they tell you that you might be killed off?
At the end of Series 7, when Gemma Jones went, when Alex Lappin went, and I think neither of them were told until almost 2 days before. Who made that decision, I don't know. So that it can be that quick. There's so much of it was made up on the move, wasn't it? And also, I think as series after series was made, more and more people at the BBC got involved in making decisions, and it became a much more complicated process. And therefore, at any one time, somebody up there, on level whatever it was, would say, right, I want her out. Let's kill him this week. So you really never knew what was going to happen. I didn't.
Not really.
I just got a call from my agent saying, I'm taking you back next year. And I was like, what? They haven't killed me. And they said, I had to watch the show to find out what happened. And I think I got fired. Yeah, that's how I found out my fate.
And didn't you have about 4 episodes where you quite likely could have been killed during the series? Were you worried that
might be your ending? Close to the edge several times, but I think they felt they had to hang on to something, a vestige of the originality, so I managed to escape.
Fantastic. Okay, another question from yourself, the audience. Do you still remember your lines? And if so, what is the favourite line that you delivered during the show?
I have a line that I never actually ended up saying. It got cut because we felt it was too silly. I think it maybe you suggested cutting it, but it was my first episode on the grid, and they were trying to show how inexperienced Joe was, having been recruited as a sort of trainee journalist, really. And the line was, you said, how have you found your training? And I said, Joe's line was, yeah, really good. I had to follow my flatmate around London for 3 days without her seeing. For some reason, it didn't make it into the point that I got cut on the day. Come on.
Fair enough. Anything else? Favourite line? Do you remember the lines, or do you just bin them as soon as they come out your mouth?
Yeah, there's a limited amount of memory. The human brain has so much space that you can cram things into. And as you're getting information on a daily basis, you have to dump stuff in order to make room for the new stuff to go in. So I've handled most of the dialogue.
Do you have your own individual method of learning your lines? I mean, some people might do parrot fashion, or you associate it with things, or do you just get so into your character that it makes sense that that's what you say? How does it work?
Uniquely with Spooks, as often the script pages will be handed to you on the morning that you were shooting, so there's not really much time to learn. You'll notice that quite a lot of us are looking at our mobile phones while it's and that's quite a nifty trick, so you can put the text on there. So, or computer screens.
Documents, we have lines scribbled everywhere on the desks.
Oh, that's good to know. Fantastic. Okay, more questions? Peter, did you cry when you read the ending?
I didn't cry when I read it, but I was quite tearful when we shot it.
You did what?
I didn't cry when I read it, but it was quite tearful when we shot it.
Talk about the emotion. And the final one from the audience. What is your favourite series and why? I guess yours might be one you took part. Number 9. But what's your favourite series and why?
My favourite series is Weeds. with Mary Elizabeth Parker. Just because all the characters are brilliantly drawn. One episode will follow different people, but it's more about the characters than it is about actual actor. And I think that she's amazing.
She's misunderstood the question, hasn't she? Yeah. Fun.
I meant within Spooks, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Well done,
sorry.
Nice surprise.
Whatever you want to offer. But you know, we all know a lot about your characters, but I know as fans, I know as fans we quite want to get to know you as people, as the actresses and actors behind the character. So it'd be great to hear what you've got coming up next, and what we might be able to look forward to seeing you in next time. So start with yourself.
I have a small, perfectly formed role in a wonderful film called Salmon Fishing in the Yemen, which I suggest you all go and see immediately. They've also a couple of unknowns in it called Ewan McGregor and Emily Blunt and Christine Scott. Don't worry about them.
Has anyone made you starstruck? Anyone you've worked with on these films that has sort of had you as sort of that aghast in awe of them?
I don't know if anyone's ever made me starstruck. Actually, the most exciting show business encounter I've ever had wasn't on a set or in a theatre. It was on the London Underground. This is a long time ago. I was sitting on the train and a middle-aged man with grey hair and glasses got on and sat down next to me reading his book. And I thought, my God, that's Andrew Sachs. I'm sitting next to Manuel. And honestly, that was the most exciting encounter I've ever had.
Fantastic. And yourself, what's coming up for you?
I have just been filming in Dublin for 4 months, filming a new series called Dex. Well, it's not a new series actually, they did a sort of pilot for us a couple of years ago. But they're doing 6 one-hour episodes, which is me and Toby Stevens playing police. And I'm rehearsing a play at the Donmar at the moment called The Physicists, which is a very odd German play.
Great.
I'm about to do a play for the first time. I'm just in rehearsals at the moment, and it's on at the Soho Theatre in London. It's called Utopia, so check on the website, buy tickets, and I hope to see you all there.
Great. How are the demands and challenges different on stage compared to television?
Like the difference between, to me, it's like the difference between painting with watercolour or, I don't know, making a sculpture. It's a completely different technique, which I'm trying to learn as fast as I can, so I don't make a complete tit out of myself.
You've worked with some other big stars as well, haven't you? Johnny Depp in an early movie. How was that? Great. I think we'll find out. Has anyone told you you look like Kate Winslet?
Many times.
Many times, yeah. It came across me earlier and I'm not sure we've heard it before, but hopefully that's it. We'll good luck with that. Thank you for that. And what's next for yourself?
I had a vertical learning curve of producing when I just finished producing the first film with my husband, but I'm now trying to figure out how to sell it, which is a very difficult process, but we're in post-production on another film, which is, they're both challenging, difficult, provocative films. The second one is about an Austrian Marine who was, it's a true story, dropped into Bosnia in the first 3 months of the ethnic cleansing. And he subsequently meets a woman who was the Doctors Without Borders, who was there at the same time. And it's really about the damage that war does. I'm going to be doing a film in South Africa later in the year as an actor about a little boy who comes from the townships and discovers his great gift as a jazz musician. And if the financing falls into place in Cannes, a thriller to be shot in Europe called Baked in the summer.
And I'm taking a long overdue gap year.
But you've been part of some successful films as well in the past. Is film something you want to move into next, or do you prefer working in
Well,
television?
you don't choose to move into film, you're chosen. You know, those things come along if you're lucky. But I'm very happy in television. It's a much more immediate and
we wrap up. We've got a microphone to this lady at the back here. Yeah, with a hand up there. Sorry, James. Sorry.
I think behind there, yes. Hello. Just a quick question. Well, two. One is, what were your favourite moments in the series? Like, your favourite moments of the episodes you filmed? And the other one, I noticed that it's not Spooks talk, yeah? Oh, no, sorry, Spooks photo shoot, sorry, I can't really bother. Can I get a picture of you, the cast, just me, together? Is that okay?
Yes, that's absolutely fine. Favourite moments for me has to be the end, or any operatic moment in the whole series. It's one of the things that Spooks does well is drama with broad strokes, and the end of the 10 series was pretty operatic. For me, that's great TV.
I would say the end as well. I mean, the moment of Nicola Diana, I found heart-wrenching. It was beautifully acted. Yeah, my favourite moment.
I think I agree with the end. My favourite moment in the weeds was Spooks. Yeah, Spooks was, for me, was doing the great stuff. Not for any kind of weird reason. This is the challenge, isn't it?
My favourite moment has to be I think it was my last or my penultimate scene at the beginning of Series 8 when I'm in the house with that smashing little boy who was such a good actor, and telling a story about the dog, and I still get choked up about that sometimes. It's a lovely day.
Brilliant. Well, it's been fantastic having you here on the sofa with us.